Hi everyone, welcome back to another anatomy video. In today's lecture, we are going to be looking at articulations. So basically, kind of just like your joints, some different classifications such as synovial diarthrosis, all of those things. Please like and subscribe for more content in the future. And now, without further ado, I'm going to get into the first topic of discussion, which is functional joint classifications. So this is basically how much movement a joint has. So the first classification is synarthrosis, which means that there is no movement. An example of this would be skull sutures. If you see this image down below over here, you can see that you have your mid-sagittal suture and your coronal suture within the skull. These would be synarthrosis because the bones of your skull, obviously, you do not want them to move. That would be very bad if they were. And so there is no movement, they are synarthrosis. Next is amphiarthrosis, which means that there's a little bit of movement. An example of this would be your pubic symphysis, which is the piece of cartilage that connects your two coxal bones of the hips. Another example is your intervertebral discs, which you can see in this picture over here on the side. These pieces of cartilage that are in between the vertebrae. If you think of your spine is able to bend, but not as freely as, let's say, your elbows or your knees. So therefore, it is amphiarthrosis. And the very last classification is diarthrosis, which means completely free movement. An example of this is, again, your knee joints, your elbow joints, all of those things. You can swing them around freely, and they typically don't have a lot of limitation. All right, moving on. Now we're going to look into some of the anatomical structures of synovial joints. First off, we are going to start off with the periosteum. The periosteum is the layer that is the most superficial and it is kind of just covering the joint. So it starts over here at this tan portion and then it becomes this blue region over here. This is considered to be your periosteum. Next, you have your synovial membrane, which is this light pink on the inside, and it is kind of just on the inside lining on the sides, but not really in the middle. Next, you have articular cartilage, which is this light blue portion over here that is cushioning the bones. It is making sure that there is no friction between the bones, and so it is keeping them nice and safe and preventing a lot of bone erosion. Then you have your joint cavity, which is this free space over here on the sides and in the middle. Within the joint cavity, you have synovial fluid. So, joint cavity containing synovial fluid. Next, your fibrous joint capsule is going to be in between your periosteum, which is kind of this more vibrant blue, and the synovial membrane. So, fibrous joint capsule is in the middle of that over here, that second layer. All right, now we are going to move on to planes of movement. So the first plane of movement is non-axial, aka no plane of movement. This is a gliding joint. If you guys have ever heard of tectonic plates, which is how we get earthquakes when they are kind of like sliding up against one another and moving a lot. So think of those tectonic plates slowly sliding against one another. That is the same type of motion that a gliding joint is going to have. So, gliding joints can be located between your carpal bones and your tarsal bones. Again, carpal is referring to your wrist, tarsal referring to your ankle. Next, uniaxial, which is one plane of movement. An example of this is your hinge joints and your pivot joints. Hinge joints would be like your elbows and knees, kind of where there is that ability to move up and down. Pivot joint, it is often found in between your radia and your ulna bone. So it is called your radio-ulnar joint. and it helps with the motion of supination, turning your palms upward, and pronation, turning your palms downwards facing the ground. Next, biaxial, two planes of movement. An example of this is your condyloid joint. This is often found kind of like where your knuckles are or around your wrists. And then saddle joint, an example of that would be your sternoclavicular joint. Um, and it is also kind of just like having a little bit of give. Finally, your triaxial joints. This is the one that has a lot of plane of movement. An example is your ball and socket joints, which includes your shoulders, your hips. Those are ball and socket because they can move around a lot, and those are the origins of your appendages, meaning your limbs. So they need a lot of free movement. All right, that was everything for this lesson. Short and sweet, but it definitely is a great foundation for the rest of this unit. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below in the comment section and I will get back to you. I'm also an anatomy tutor, so if you want to comment for some extra help, then I can reach out to you. We can exchange emails and go from there. I hope you guys found this informational. Again, like and subscribe, and I will see you next video. Bye and have a great day.